Hi, friends. I'm going to talk to you today about this thing called a time capsule. And a time capsule is something that came up in a conversation in the hallway with Colton. And he was studying a little bit of Liberty's history. And he asked if I knew about this thing called a time capsule, which was buried in the courthouse yard. And I said, "Well, of course I do, Colton. I remember it very well because I was at that very ceremony where that capsule, or in this case, this box, was buried in the yard." In fact, my father and Drew's grandfather, Earl, was a big part of that ceremony. And if I recall, I think perhaps one of those photographs was one that Drew shared when he was honoring his grandfather, Earl. But anyway, I digress. That means I get off the topic. Um, the time capsule in Liberty was buried in the year 1976, and it was to honor our bicentennial of our country. And so here is an actual photograph of what is buried in the courthouse lawn. In fact, you can find it still there. And it says it's the Spirit of 76 time capsule. You can see that it was buried on July 4th, 1976, and it's expected to be open on July 4th, 2026. So let's do a little math. I want to figure out how many years that time capsule or that box will stay in the ground before it is dug up to see the treasures inside in 2026. So think, if I want to know how much time had passed, what kind of math would I have to do to figure that out? Sure, I'm going to subtract, and common sense tells us the bigger number goes on top. So we're going to start with that year that it's going to be opened, 2026, and we're going to subtract the year that it was buried. So just like we know to do, with the bigger number on top, I'm going to start in that ones place, and 6 minus 6 is 0. 2 minus 7. Ooh, we can't do that, can we? So we have to regroup. Oh no, I can't regroup at all because that's a 0. So when that happens, I'm going to box off those 2 digits, and instead of thinking 20, I'm just going to take 1 away from it and make it 19. Now that's something that you'll learn in a lot of detail in 3rd grade next year. But anyway, now we can do it. 9 minus 9 is 0. Do we have to put it down there? No. Oh, I forgot. Once we regroup, we put that 1 in front of the 2, didn't we? And that became a 12. So 12 minus 7 is 5. Then we had our 9 minus 9 is 0, which you say we don't have to put down there. And 1 minus 1 is also 0. So how many years will that capsule be in the ground? That's right, 50 years. So going back to that picture, that is an old photograph of the actual time capsule's plaque that's in the ground. And when we look at old photographs and old things to try to determine history, we call those documents primary sources. So primary sources could be photographs like we just saw. They could be old letters, old journal or diary entries. It could also be old newspaper articles that we read, just like Drew brought in. Those old newspapers were primary sources. So when we think about time capsules, we're actually meeting one of those Indiana academic standards. And the big idea here would be that we can identify how things stay the same and changes between the past and the present in our community using those primary sources. Now I'm going to tell you when we get to opening time capsules like we will get to do in the year 2026, I can think of no better primary source than a time capsule. Because a time capsule inside the box is just going to be things that people put inside that they think would really give a good picture as to what life or culture was like during that time. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was just a 10-year-old little girl, just a little older than you are now when they put that time capsule in the ground. So I have no recollection or no remembering of what's in it. However, I can tell you what life was like a little bit in the year 1976. So let me share that with you. In 1976, the Apple computer was invented. That's right. And would you believe that the very first Apple computer that was sold for $666.66. Okay, also in the year 1976, the most popular movie was Rocky. The most popular television show was one that I watched every week, and it was called Happy Days. You might have heard of this character called the Fonz. He's that guy in the black leather jacket. You might have seen him around. That's Happy Days. Now, you didn't watch TV without commercials, just like now. And the most famous commercial in the year 1976 was for cat food. And there wasn't words at all. It was simply a cat singing, meow, 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 meow. And that was the Meow Mix commercial. Now, just like we have funny folks today, which we call comedians, the most famous female comedian of that day was Carol Burnett, who had her own show and made me laugh once a week on her Carol Burnett show. Wait for it. Wait for it. Can you guess the most popular toy in the year 1976? I'll tell you what, I refer to this toy every time we talk about a number in expanded form. That's right. Stretch Armstrong was one of the most popular toys when I was 10 years old. We had chewing gum, but I want you to know that this chewing gum, the most popular of its day, beech nut gum, you could buy for 10 cents. You heard correctly. You would get 5 pieces of gum for a dime. And lastly, even though no way was I allowed to get my ears pierced when I was 10 years old, I wanted to really, really bad. And if I had been able to get my ears pierced at 10 years old, that would have cost me only $6. So that's a little bit about the culture, which we've used that word in our vocabulary, haven't we? Like the language, the music, the art, the clothes people wore, the food we eat or they ate back then. So I would expect when we dig up that time capsule, we're going to find out some of those things, I'll bet. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what on earth does that have to do with what we're going to do? Well, you're going to make a time capsule. Now, your time capsule is actually going to be all about what's going on in the world right now. And I think we all know the biggest thing going on in this world right now is that coronavirus, that COVID-19 that's keeping us away from each other, that's causing us to social distance. So you heard correctly. You are going to hopefully make a time capsule. Now, when I think capsule, I think about this little bitty medicine, this little pill that I had to give Frodo today. Yeah, well, a capsule is actually any kind of shape of container that's holding important things. So you, my friends, will hopefully, not just today, but over lots of days, be putting together a time capsule that tells all about this important time in your life. Because you may not realize it right now, but you are living history. You are making history. So it's going to be very important for you to document what's going on in your world right now. So someday, perhaps your grandchildren will look at that time capsule and regard the things that you have in it as primary sources. So here we go. I have attached for you today an 11-page document that, again, I don't want you working on and getting finished just today. This is going to be a long-term project. Lots of neat things that will tell all about the COVID virus. You might glue some newspaper headlines. You might draw on this page who is actually spending your social distance time with you. Another page is you are going to be asked to tell all about you during this time. Now, one thing you're going to notice is this document is shared with students all over the world. So I want you to study right under the words all about me. And does anyone notice anything a little different about the way they spelled favorites? That's right. In Canada, they spell favorite with that U in it. Notice, we in our language, we don't include that U at all. On that very same page, it's going to be asking you about your favorite color. You can see that mine was aqua. What do you notice about the word color? Same thing. In some languages, they have that U in the word color. We do not. There's another page that deals entirely with your feelings, which I don't know about you, but I've gone through all kinds of feelings through this. From being worried about you. How are you getting along? Do you have everything you need? From being scared. I don't know anything about this virus. All I know is it's causing a lot of bad and sad things to happen. Believe it or not, through this time, I'm also feeling happy because I have my son Joseph with me. So I have all kinds of feelings right now. And it's important that I write about them. So this was just kind of a fun thing. What I like the best part about this page is it talks about the things I am most excited to do when this is over. And number one is to visit the family that I've been unable to see, to travel, and to go out to eat. I'm getting sick and tired of all this cooking. There is also a spot where you talk about, how are you staying connected with your community? There's a place for you to turn this very simple house into looking more like your house. There is a spot to talk about what's your favorite way to stay connected. And I sure talked about that teacher parade where we went around to some spots in the county and got to wave to a lot of students, perhaps even to you. Oh, here's another word that shows up. One of the words that you're going to read on that poster is learnt, which in some countries, that past tense of the word learn is not an ed ending like we have, but a simple t ending. And in our language, we do not use the word learnt at all. I love this one because this is seeing things positive. I love how at the top of this poster it says, "You are not stuck at home. You are safe at home." And I like to remember that when I'm staying inside, not only am I keeping myself safe, but I'm also keeping a lot of people in this world safe too by not passing germs. So this is just kind of a visual to show what am I doing to keep busy while I'm safe at home. This is a fun one. This is a place for you to put the handprints of those folks that you are staying inside with. So in my house, it's just David, and I traced his hand in that blue paper, and my son Joseph, he's in the green paper, and then Joseph traced my hand in the yellow paper. So that's the three of us that are self-quarantining together in this house. You could, if you don't have colored paper at home, and I'll bet not many of you do, I just have it because I'm the teacher. You could take paint or ink or anything and just do that. Or you could just trace around with pencil and color with crayons. This one's kind of a bummer because this page is a listing of special occasions that you didn't get to celebrate, or you celebrated in an entirely different way. You know, I know spring break is one of those things that we didn't get to do at all. But you notice mine's not finished yet because I have a feeling we're going to be inside a lot more days. So this is a work in progress. So as I think of those things that I should have been doing as a special occasion, I could add them and the date. And then, well, what did I do instead of that normal celebration or that normal occasion? There's also a place for you to write a letter to yourself. Dear me, love me. So I just wrote about, same thing, how scary it kind of is. And I put some facts in there. I put about some very scary facts about how many people were sick in the world and how many were sick in the state of Indiana. But I didn't end that way. I ended happy in my letter to myself. I ended it with hope. Here's kind of a cool little poster near the end. It's an interview for your parents. Yeah, you get to ask them some questions and ask their answers to that. Again, here was a spot that I wasn't quite sure to fill out because it says days spent inside. So I put this date on the date that the questions were answered, but then I put and counting because I don't know how many days we're going to stay inside. I'm going to stay inside until our leadership, like the governor Holcomb of Indiana or President Trump, tells us that, yes, it's okay. It's safe for you to go out now. So that's just kind of a fun little visual interview with your parents. And then I don't have this to share with you, but the very last page in the document is a place for your parents to write a letter to you. And I think that would be really, really sweet. So when you have all of those things done, you're just going to take them, stack them all up. You're going to roll them up, and whatever thing you decide to use as your capsule, you'll put them in. Now, you might just put a rubber band around it and put it in a box, or you might keep it in a large envelope. I thought this was kind of fun, just to decorate a Pringles can. And that a Pringles can is a nice cylinder shape that looks like a capsule. I can take the lid off, drop my important documents in, and close it off. Now I'm going to be very honest with you in telling you I am not going to bury this in my yard, but I am going to keep it in a very, very special spot where years to come, I can get it back out and I can read how I documented or wrote down all about this very, very different time in our life during the COVID-19. So I have included with the documents, I've also included a cover that you could just print out, or you could decorate your own and wrap right around a Pringles can if that's the choice that you would like to make. I've also included a short video on how to include a Pringles can and turn it right into your time capsule. So again, I'm going to tell you, don't try to do it all in one sitting. It's too much. I would do maybe a page a day, and then maybe after 10 or 12 days, you would be all finished. So I sure hope you enjoyed learning about a time capsule, both in Union County in our courthouse and how to make one of your very own to document this time. So until this time, take care, stay well, and know that I miss you so.